The Commonwealth Games and sporting events like it have been around for a long time, and it always freshens things up to add new and interesting sports to the agenda. For the Games coming up in 2026, the Commonwealth is adding a bunch of new sports to the event. We'll be talking about these recent additions in this video, and we'll also look at some other new and unique sports. First up, how many new sports is the Commonwealth adding? 20. That's right, they're going all out to make sure that no matter what sport you like, you'll have a reason to tune into the 2026 Commonwealth Games. Two sports that the Commonwealth Games are possibly cribbing from the Olympics are golf and BMX racing. The latter might just be a step towards adding skateboarding to the event, just like in the Tokyo 2020 Games. Golf is a pretty popular sport in some countries of the Commonwealth, while BMX racing should draw a lot of younger eyes to the Games. Considering how popular cricket is in the Commonwealth, it's surprising that only in 2026 is this sport being added to the Games. One problem that cricket used was that even the one-day matches were super long, but the T20 format is a perfect fit for such an event. Male cricketers will be disappointed to find no place for themselves at the Games though, as only women's T20 cricket is a part of the lineup. Shooting and parachuting are also making a return to the event after being missing from the 2022 Games. Guns in general have a pretty bad rap these days, but the sport of shooting is one that shooters have spent a lot of time mastering. They totally deserve as many opportunities to take home a gold medal as they can get. Moving on, so that's 3 down and 17 to go. 3 aquatic sports are being added to the list: swimming, paraswimming, and diving. These are mainstays in other multi-sport events, so their inclusion in the Commonwealth Games was basically a question of when rather than if. The Games are also going to include athletics and para-athletics, because you wouldn't expect to see a multi-sport event these days without them. On a similar note, we'll also be seeing triathlons and para-triathlons. Along with BMX, a lot of two-wheeled sports will be contested at the Games. These include mountain biking and road, track, and para-track racing. And if two wheels are still too much for you, how about no wheels with coastal rowing? A lot of new sports are being added to the Games for the very first time. These include badminton, boxing, and a trip to the danger zone with beach volleyball. Not to forget hockey, rugby, squash, table tennis, and para-table tennis. And with the inclusion of weightlifting and para-weightlifting, it's looking like the Commonwealth Games now feature every sport in the world that doesn't involve cars or something. Maybe we'll get Formula 1 in 2030. You never know. Those were all sports you've heard of though. Now, we're counting down 10 sports that you may never have heard of before. The first one we'll talk about today is earthing, created by Danish athlete Mark-Aaron Saus in 2013. Earthing is a sporting event where runners will be sprinting and swimming. It's different from a biathlon because while the athlons are about endurance, earthing is a sprint-style event that takes place over 110 meters. The technique of the dive into the water is a judged part of the competition. This is a sport that actually has a shot of making it into the Olympics or Commonwealth Games if it can become popular enough. Up next, we're hopping into a DeLorean and heading into the future. Welcome to Our World Sports, the future of athletic competition. This is a concept of related sports dreamt up by Doug Yurchie, and these sports are quite dreamy. We begin Tri-Ball, which is a faster and more exciting version of baseball, with just 8 players on a smaller field. The rules favor aggressive hitting, which should make it more fun to watch. Beamer is a take on American football without the ball. It's a sort of laser tag, where a team of defenders has to shoot targets on a team of offenders. All the fun of football with no head trauma. Hole in the Drone is golf, where you pilot a drone and try to land the ball in the hole. Flog is another golf variant that plays around with the principles of mini-golf. Roval is a form of tennis played on an oval-shaped court and with no net. Ring Wrong is roval played on a table. R-Pool is a form of pool played on a circular table with different rules for different colors of balls. The ultimate sport of our world is soccer. You've got soccer, water polo, basketball, and dodgeball in an unholy union that threatens the fabric of sports. Let's come back to the present and look at Hantis. This is a sport created by Ben Fothery, Jason Johns, and their friends. It's a form of table tennis that isn't as futuristic as Ring Wrong, but still adds dynamism and excitement to the game. If you've got 4 tables lying around, set them up for a 4-table game of ping pong. This is a team sport that involves players chasing the ball between the tables and making daring hits. Players can even get creative and score some trick shots. Next is another fun-sounding game, Blow Ball. This is yet another table tennis variation, and this one ditches the paddles. Tennis without paddles? It'll make sense. You'll see. See, what you're gonna do is play with the normal rules of table tennis, except the table has rails going around the edges. Instead of whacking the ball across the table, you blow on it. That's why it's called Blow Ball. This might sound silly to you, but don't underestimate Blow Ball. People have been playing it at a higher level than you'd expect, and it's even been televised a few times in the 90s. Now, we'll fire up a game of Super Punt. John Lucky has a great sense of branding, because Super Punt even sounds like a lot of fun to play. He's an Aussie guy, so naturally, Super Punt is inspired by the game of rugby. This is a head-to-head game for two players, who only have their wits to hand, as well as an oval-shaped ball. The game is played on a setup similar to that of rugby, and the goal is to kick the ball across your opponent's goal line. Sound easy? Well, sometimes the easiest sports can be the hardest. The next game is for fans of Thor. Inspired by Chris Hemsworth's take on the character The Avengers, Dave Simpson wondered what could be a socially acceptable way to try to hit people with a big hammer. The last bit is an unsourced claim, so take it with a grain of salt. Hammerfield, Simpson's Asgardian-inspired creation, sees players throwing around a version of Mjolnir made of foam. There's a tennis ball too, and two bells. The objective is to hit the bells, either by throwing Mjolnir at them or by jumping up and whacking them. We'll move on from there. 360 Ball, created in 1990 by Mark and John Collins in South Africa. This is a game that's kinda like squash, but also not really. Played in a small court, surrounded by a wall. 360 Ball sees players trying to sink a ball into a bowl in the center using rackets. Naturally, the wall comes into play as the ball whizzes around the court. We've seen some pretty crazy games in this video, but this is one that definitely feels like it exists in the real world. While you still have your racket, let's play some knuckle racket. This is a sport that you can play on a racquetball court. Jose Castillo dreamt up this game in Miami in 2009, and it sees you punching the ball. Ouch. Well, you won't be punching the ball literally. The game is played with special rackets that consist of the racket head and a handle behind it. With one racket in each hand, you play against the wall of your playing area. So this is basically another squash variant. We are getting a little crazy again with tug ball, another creative invention from a PE teacher. This game is played with a ball that is strapped into a harness with 8 ropes. A game of tug ball has a variety of stages, starting with a tug-of-war and proceeding into a rush for the opposing goal with the tug ball in hand. Tug ball refers to the ball itself, and you can use this invention to play a variety of games. 2 examples would be Vortex and Ultimate Steal the Bacon. And finally today, we're looking at Rider Ball. So you've heard of football, you've heard of handball. Get ready for chess ball. Created by Carl Mounts, Rider Ball is played in a small court with players passing a ball to each other as they try to get the ball into a goal in the center. But here's the thing, the ball can only touch the chest. This is a real recipe for players falling all over each other. And isn't that half of what sports are all about? That's it for today's video. Let us know which of the new Commonwealth Games events you'll be tuning in for, and which of the newer sports we talked about sound coolest to you. We will meet each other again on this channel, or are we next destined to encounter each other in the radical future of our world? The only way to find out is by liking and sharing this video, and then subscribing to the channel.